Hello, everyone. We are back. We got a great topic today and, lots of life updates. Things are moving and grooving in both of our worlds.
Things are happening, and I'm so excited for this conversation and the topic that we're diving into. It
I am
warms my
too.
heart.
Yes, I feel like we will feel all warm and fuzzy at the end of it.
Yes. Yes,
Ugh.
yes, yes. Okay,
So,
Jess, do you have any updates?
not like you. I know you got an update.
Oh God. Okay, guys. So I've been talking about the fact that I'm moving or
Yeah.
I was moving. I
Hmm.
wasn't ready to drop the location yet.
Nope. Yep. But
Am I
today's the
ready to
day.
drop it? Am I ready to drop it right now? I don't know, but let's give you a little backstory. So Nick and I have been beat bopping around the last few years. We've moved 3 times,
Mm,
4 times together.
wow.
Um, and I've said before on this podcast that we previously owned a home. We
Mhm.
sold that home. We were renting a beautiful townhome the last year, and our lease came to an end, and we didn't have clarity on where we wanted to go next.
Yeah.
The spleen didn't speak. His
Yeah.
emotional wave did not come to a conclusion.
Hmm.
So Nick came home, like the manifestor that he is, one day and said, "You know what? Why don't we just crash with your parents for a little bit until we figure out where we want to go next?"
Yeah.
So I am at my parents' house.
Yay. All
Woo!
you YouTubers can see the background has definitely changed and it is beautiful,
Thank you.
but you're at your
I had
parents
to
now.
I had to bring the Jenna energy back here,
Good.
make it feel like home. So yeah, guys, I'm
Yes.
here. I am still processing. I am still adapting. There is still no clarity. Um, but that's my update.
Yeah. Yeah. Do things feel light?
Ooh, interesting word.
Thank you.
Things feel things feel right with an
Ooh.
R.
Oh,
That's what
that's
they feel.
powerful.
It's thank you.
Yeah.
It's very weird when Nick proposed this. Of
Hmm.
course, like ego came in and was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
yes.
oh, what the hell?" Like, no, absolutely not. Like, no, not because I didn't think it would serve us or that I
Mm.
don't love my parents and all
Mhm.
of the things that are here right now, but it's just that ego
Oh, yeah.
and like societal thought of like, "Oh
Yeah.
God,
Sure.
moving with your parents, crash there? Like, what the hell? No, we've already been like around the world in terms of like homes and experiences. Why would we go back?"
Yeah.
But then deep down, I felt like this sigh of relief because it was like, oh, you have more time to decide where you want to
Mm.
go next. Like it was a gift of time. It feels like a gift of time.
Mm.
And it also feels like I just have more space and capacity within myself to be really intentional with our next move and
Yeah.
my life. And so
Yeah.
that feels very right,
Mhm.
even though
Sure.
physically I'm very confused and adjusting a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, my parents are amazing. We've
Sure.
changed our relationship dynamics like
Mm.
tenfold. They were always wonderful, but honestly, in the last few years, our one-to-one relationship and our relationship as a whole unit has changed so much and so much for the better. It is
Yeah.
kind of cool being here and being like, huh, oh, that's different. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Right.
cool. Like, all right, cool. We all have boundaries. We're all like loving and respecting one another.
Oh,
Um,
lovely.
so I feel like there's going to be a lot of cool surprises while we're here.
Oh,
It's
I
just
love that.
regulating the nervous system every day.
Yep. Yep. I also think there's something special in that space too of like, this is time you're getting with your parents that you
Yes.
didn't, it wasn't in like life plan or like, oh, this is
No.
like a special part of life. But like, I think that will be looking back on it,
Yeah.
which I think is
Yeah.
really special.
And as you say that, it does just like sink in even more, like getting to experience time with them as
Hmm.
I am more myself now. Like I was always the child. I was always
Right.
I mean, and I was an only child too. So it was
Yeah.
very much a different perspective and experience being in this household
Hmm.
as that Jenna. And now that I feel so much more like myself, I know that there's a lot for me to kind of discover and experience here with them.
Mm,
But
that's beautiful.
I mean, my
Transitions
door's
are
locked.
happening.
My door's locked. I have my headphones in. It's very different. Like I have my diffuser over there. We are also having to adjust just a
Yeah.
lot.
Yep.
Individually, Nick and I, all the things.
Yes.
But that's
Absolutely.
okay.
That is okay. That's a big transition. You've made the move. And also, like, literally, your physical stuff is in a different spot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you guys have also made that. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, we're just going to bring
Mhm.
everything over. Like, nope, things are in storage. You brought
Yeah.
only what you needed. Like,
Yeah.
very simplified.
Yeah, and that's been kind of cool too. Like we've
Hmm.
always, like I said, we're very minimal when it comes to like things. I don't
Yeah.
know if the guys that helped us move would say that on Sunday.
Right.
I'm like, I'm so minimal and I filled up an entire storage unit with my shit.
Oh, that's so perfect. Oh,
My
that's so
dad would
perfect.
be like, "No, you're not."
Yeah. Right.
Um, I feel like I am, but yeah, it's
Oh.
kind of cool to just like not have the bare minimum because by no means do I not have everything I need and then some
Sure,
through my
sure, sure.
parents stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to kind of like I guess keep it light. Look at that full circle. You
Oh,
said, "Does it
full
feel light?"
circle.
I guess it does.
It's light and right.
Light and
That's
right.
also another shirt we need to make.
What was the Oh, I'm not going to disclose the other one I said because it's going to be a surprise.
Yeah, it's going out. It's happening. It's going to
It's
happen.
happening.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I feel like we're still in transition. And I love this because I feel like this is such a good example of the projector efficiency that happens like in a weekend. Bing, bing, bing. We are moved.
yeah.
It has settled. And I'm like, oh, we're working on like 2.5 weeks and I still got boxes all around me.
Oh my God, Jess, that would drive me nuts.
Oh, it does drive me
Nuts.
nuts. I've been very inefficient. So it's this weekend. The furniture's finally getting delivered on Thursday. So we're like, great. We can actually like build the cabinet, put the things in the cabinet, and now unbox the rest of the
Mhm.
stuff. So yeah, it's just one of those like, oh my gosh, how have we been doing this? Ugh. But
Yeah.
it's just a funny example of like, well, I'm just
Well, and
taking my
also like,
steps
yeah, I'm like, projectors can get things done, man.
so
Like we just
quick.
have to like care about them.
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, I was talking to a projector yesterday about this, like this whole kind of notion of that work aspect. I'm like, no, no, no. Like it won't feel like work to you, but man, you get things done in lightning speed when it is correct for
Mhm.
you. And I'm just the one step at a time. I'm getting there. Like I'll
But
meet you
I'm
there.
like, I'm feeding off of you. And so I
Yeah.
feel like the generator energy. And I think this will be interesting for our discussion today,
Yeah.
which is living with and loving a manifestor,
Yeah.
because we both have manifestor partners.
You do.
Um, it's interesting, every time I've moved, I've had access to my mom's energy, like being there helping out. So like
Yes.
I
Yes.
too
Yes.
wonder if that has definitely made a difference in being able to get the things done so quickly because I'm feeding off of her.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I also love my mom being there too for our moves. She's also a generator. It's perfect. It's perfect.
We love our moms.
We do. We do. And we love our manifestors. And it's something you
Yes.
and I bond over a lot. Like I feel like we bring it up quite often.
We'll
Um,
like freaking WhatsApp each other like, "Hey, does your manifestor ever do this? Because my
yes.
manifestor just XYZ." You're like, "Oh my God, mine does that too." Like they're little like pets or animals, but they're not pets or animals,
No.
but like the comparisons we make, it's like as if they're
Oh
like
my
little
gosh.
little kids.
Yes, because it's like such a different way of life and like energy that I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
is that appropriate for me? Like, wait, I don't know. That's not how I operate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's do a little background on the
Sure.
manifestor energy type
Hmm.
again.
Hmm.
You want to dive in there because I love when you do this.
Oh, that's so nice. Okay, so like manifestor energies, right? It's one of the 5 energy types in human design land. And it's only like 8 to 10% of the population are manifestors. So that alone kind of gives that indicator of like, oh, that energy
Different.
flow, yeah, may operate differently than the masses. Um, and for a manifestor, what if you're looking at a chart, what's going to make them a manifestor is they have at least one of the 4 motor centers, well, not directly, but connected to the throat. And it kind of makes sense when you think about that, like manifestor. They're like the throat center, that throat energy is all about manifestation, communication. So it's like, oh, yeah, they need a motor center to drive that manifestation, that communication. So just chart wise, that's what you're going to see. But from that energetic perspective, with this, I always like to say that manifestors, they have a closed aura. So there's different aura types based off of the energy type. And for manifestors, it's a closed aura. And I will just say, realizing this for my manifestor, like, gave so much awareness and like so much relief to be like, oh, like all the dots connected once I learned, like, oh, they have a closed, or where mine's like attractive and like, come on in, people. Like, right. So there's like different dynamics. But also manifestors, so their strategy is really to initiate, like, they are the quote unquote like trailblazers in this energy type. And they, to be that trailblazer, they have creative urges. And this is really also important for manifestors or living with a manifestor to realize, because that, the way they utilize their energy, it is different. It is unique, because you're not going to have a creative urge all day, every day. Like, that's
Mhm.
not like download, download, download. Like, no, like, it's like a wave. You can think of it, right? Like, there's going to be these urges, these surges. So it's like, oh, that's a whole other conversation we can go down of like, well, what is a manifestor? How do they act if they're in that urge or when they're not? So this is something that when you are around a manifestor who like is actually following a creative urge, oh, it is like
Mhm.
potent. And you're either like getting on their train, like, I want to ride this out. I want to see what happens. Like, I'm in it. Or you're like, get me off this train. I want nothing to do with them. Like, this is not my vibe. So it's
Not
kind of
for
that
me.
like love hate sort of like
Mhm.
energy. Um, but yeah, I feel
And
like I could
that
ramble on more and more about
yeah,
their
and
energy
just
type.
that urge of, okay, I'm if a manifestor is honoring that creative urge, that's also why they have a closed aura. And you said
Yes.
the trailblazer, so that they could just move people out of their way. People
Oh,
either get on
yes.
the party train or they hop the F off, but they're meant to fulfill that urge, and
Hmm.
their energy physically around them is like helping them do that.
Yes.
But if you don't know that
Absolutely.
about a manifestor, you said that you have, as a generator, a very attractive aura. I have a
Yeah.
very penetrating aura.
Yeah.
So as a projector, I like to penetrate the other. We've talked
Hmm.
about this a lot,
Yep. Yep.
and really feel you. And before I knew of human design, I was trying to get into Nick's frequency and
Yeah.
feel him. And there would be a lot of times where I'm like, let me in. Like, where are you? And it like I you could, it wasn't explicit, like there weren't like
Yes.
issues or anything, but I could physically feel that like a little bit of a wall energetically.
Yes.
But now that I know that, it's like, oh, this
Right.
is how you're meant to be experienced.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's very much for manifestors, because they do not have a defined sacral, right? They're not a generator or manifesting generator. They
Mhm.
are a manifestor. So they don't have that sacral. Um, they are also an energy type that does need alone time, does need downtime, does need to just kind of recover and be in that, just in that being state. Um, which I think, we can talk about for our men in our life. I think that is also like finding that balance for their own self, and what that looks like is a journey um for them.
So,
But mhm.
no, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
Nope, you go.
I was gonna say, let's talk about like a typical day of like what that looks and feels like for each of our guys. So we're talking
Sure.
about like my lovely husband, Nick.
Yeah.
He's my manifestor in my life, and your fiance, David. I feel like I should say their names, not to call them out, but like
That's their names.
they are human. They are not
Yes.
pets. They're not children. They are our lovely partners.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Um, but yeah, I feel like that closed aura, I feel it in the morning a lot with Nick,
Oh, how so?
because he just wakes up and does what he wants. Like
Mm-hmm.
he just, I'm very like, I wake up and I'm like, how are you today? How are you feeling? How did you sleep? Like all of my heart and soul is like wanting to connect with him in the morning. And he's
Yeah.
like, good. And
Sure.
then he
Of
just like
course.
makes his breakfast sandwich. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? What does good mean? Like, that's who I am in the morning. And Nick
Right.
is just like doing his thing, doesn't need
Yeah.
to talk to anybody, doesn't like, and that is because for him, a typical day is going and working with people all day, where
Yeah.
he is probably tapping into those creative urges more often and giving his non-sacral self to others because it's his job.
Yeah.
But it's interesting in the morning how I can just see he's just doing his thing,
Right.
like doesn't
Do you
care.
notice a difference on work days versus non-work days?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I do
Yeah.
too.
Like not non-work days, he's like, so what are we doing today? And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
what?
Yeah.
But
Right.
okay, this also speaks to, I feel like we should like caveat this discussion with they're both emotional beings.
Yes,
So
they
they
are.
both have emotional authority, which means, as we've said many times before, they're riding a wave
Yep.
constantly, a mechanical wave of emotions. And that's how they make their best decisions. They experience the
Mhm.
high, low, and neutral of their wave. And so I think like that's a little tricky as we're talking about manifestors, because I know half
Yeah.
of the experience I have with Nick is just his energy type, but then the other half is adapting to that wave.
Yes, because both of us, we do not have
No,
emotional authority. So,
no. So we have like
yeah.
closed emotional men, closed off emotional men, if you're putting it simply. But they're
Yes.
not. But they're
They're not.
also
They're
not.
not at all. Not at all. But
Just
yeah, I really
energetically.
notice right. I notice a difference on his work days versus his weekend days.
Oh
Because
yeah.
David also goes in person and manages a lot of people, putting out a lot
Mhm.
of fires, which can be great for a manifestor in the way of like that initiation. Like, boom,
Mhm.
do this, do that. Here's a thing. I mean, there's a balance to it all. So there's aspects that are really great for him. But yeah, I notice it more so when he comes home. Like
Do you
I am
feel like a
so
sense
excited to
of
talk.
like not shock, but like I'm
Mm.
like, oh, okay. Like you're here. Your aura is a little open. Like you're opening
Oh,
yourself to me. Like
oh
I
yeah.
feel like
Ooh.
the standard is more closed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then when like he's like turns, I think, and this is something that Jenny has spoke about with us of like
Mhm.
when a manifestor does take you in, you like
Oh,
feel very held.
oh, it's the
Like when they
best.
are giving you their attention and they are even like physically holding you, it is
Yes.
like, oh, this is the best. I feel so protected and loved and
Oh,
connected.
yes. Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
like that transition from like, okay, like you said, it like for me in the morning, Nick's just doing his thing. Then he comes home from work and he's like, hi. And I'm like, oh,
Oh, I love that. Yes.
hello.
Yes. Yeah. Like I would say when David gets home, and he's also had really long hours too recently, but I just mentally prepare myself to be like, give him 10. Like, and then if he
Mm-hmm.
asks the question or if he's like, hey, come here, cool, I will. But man, it is so much better versus my like pouncing of like, how's your day? What's going on? Da, da, da. Oh, hi, hi, give me all the cards.
I
Like,
still
ooh,
suck at that. Like I
it's
suck at
so
that,
hard.
but it's harder because I'm a protector and I'm
Yeah.
like, I need to know.
Right, right.
But
It
like it's
is.
better when I don't ask, like at first. Like it's
It
the way
is.
that you're portraying it. Yes, like that is the recommended way of interacting with the manifester. Do I follow it all the time? No.
Oh no. Oh, all he's got to do is be like, babe. I'm like, oh, right. I definitely just
But you
came in
know
hot.
what? Nick is such a sweetheart that like
Yeah.
he said to me, well, okay, so previously when I didn't know that he was a manifestor, or for the first like 2 years of my experiment when I didn't really care, I was just figuring out my shit
Right,
first.
right.
I would just begin talking to him like you had just said.
Mm-hmm.
But then I implemented this practice of just being like, are you open to a conversation right now? Like simply just
Yes.
asking that.
Yeah.
And then for a while, he would not want to say no because he's so sweet. Like he would
Oh,
feel, and I think that's a like some conditioning with a
yes.
manifester that like,
Yes.
as a child, they may have just done what they wanted and kind of took action the way that it felt good. And then parents or, caregivers,
Yeah.
whatever it is, caretakers could have said like, no, follow the rules, like be respectful, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they're raised to be good boys and girls.
Yeah.
So I think he has a little conditioning of like not wanting, he's a little bit of a people pleaser. And I mean, he says it's because he loves me, but I'm
Yeah.
like, no, tell me
Yeah.
when you don't want to talk because the
Yes.
conversation sucks when you
It,
don't want to talk,
oh,
but you still
yes.
stay present.
Uh-huh.
Like it
Yes.
doesn't feel good for either of us.
Yes. Yeah, David's not like that at all.
Go, David. I mean, Nick's gotten like he's way
Yeah.
better, but there was a period where
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you have to adjust to that probably as a manifestor a little bit, like leaning
Yes.
into that power
Yeah.
and those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah. And I will say, yeah, like, yeah,
Mm.
David. Also, does Nick have siblings?
Yeah, he's a brother.
Okay. David's only child. Um, and so their conditioning could be maybe that family unit more so because he, like David, yeah, no, if he doesn't want to do something, he's not going to do it. Or if it's like he's not like, no, like, ugh. But
Yeah.
what we do chat about for our partnership is like, yeah, but I do want to ask you a million questions. Like, now we can do that when it's appropriate timing for both of
Yeah.
us. But like, I need that in the relationship too. So we
Mhm.
have those kind of like intro questions,
Absolutely.
like, okay, I do need to talk about that. Is that now? Is that like, it's not urgent, those sorts of things. But when he shows up in that way, I know that is a stretch for his energy. Like he stays in it longer than that closed, or wants to be like, okay, you asked me 2 questions. Can we be done? Like, oh no, you got 10 more.
You hit your limit for today.
Yes. And he'll say,
You
like,
get 3 wishes. You get three
no,
questions. Rub the genie bottle. You get three. It's
yes.
basically their energy.
I mean, and he will literally like say that. He'll be like, you got 3 more questions. You got 5 more questions. Like,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
getting to my end because once and like just what you said, once we get past that, oh, the conversation, it's like, oh, we
It,
both are like, let's
it's
stop.
gross.
It is. It's just not that like authentic
But you
connection.
know what's like interesting? We both said like learning this was such a relief because I can remember like feeling these gross
Mm.
conversations where maybe I was reaching or he hit his limit and I was reaching like years ago.
Yeah,
And I can I mean, it's so far in the past, but like
yeah,
I can remember even maybe if it was someone else in my life, like getting to that point and being like, do they care? Like what is
sure.
like just feeling really depleted on my end too,
Yes.
because like that potency was just gone. Like it's
Oh
like they
yeah.
exited energetically. But
Yes.
now, even if I do pass that limit, which I
Oh,
pass
it
that limit
happens. Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot
It
because I'm a
happens.
projector and I like to talk.
Yes.
I know that like once he's coming down from that like engagement, like
Yeah.
threshold,
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'm basically just having this conversation with myself now. And I think
Sure.
I'm more okay with that. Like, I'm like, all right, he's just kind of like holding space
Yeah, he's there.
and just like playing a part. Like,
Yeah.
I know that now I'm just kind of like navigating this thing with myself. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like, it's fine. It's
I think
fine
that's
because like
great for a
that's how we work.
projector.
Exactly. And he's cool
Yeah.
with that too, I think.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Maybe.
I just have to sit there. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yes. Yes.
It is so
Sometimes
good.
it's too so we're like you said that David has like 3 questions, let's say, or he'll say I only
Oh
have
yeah,
three
he'll give
questions
me
left.
a prompt. Yeah.
Well, I will ramble on like the projector I am, giving
Sure.
like my whole day's update to him. And I'll be like, so what do you think? And he goes, to what? Like about what? You said 10 things. Which one do you want
Oh
me
my
to share
God.
my
Yeah.
thoughts on? And I'm like, oh my God, how do I pick? But I totally get it. I'm like, all right, so how about this?
Oh my gosh.
And then he'll share his thought, and I'm like, okay, well, how about this one?
There
Like
you
he
go.
needs informed and he needs like
Yes.
those guide rails so that
Yes.
he's not wasting his energy and his wisdom on,
Yes.
what I ate for lunch versus like, my business plans that I'm sharing.
Yes. And that's something like I haven't even highlighted. Like I was highlighting the initiating part, but the informing part, that's also part of their strategy. So like
Yes.
that is something that I would say in partnership, I've realized how when it goes both ways, it's so lovely in communicating with a manifester. Like the moments where I'm like, I need to inform, cool. Like the more direct and like informing it is, it's
Hmm.
so received. Like he's like,
Hmm.
got it, great. Or like, oh, wait, what? Let me follow up here. And then when he informs, like Nick did for you, like, well, why don't we just crash at your parents? Ah,
Hmm.
receive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, that is valid. Like it's very clear. It's just like
Yeah. And I
I
think
got
that
it.
comes into play even more when we're like planning life together and our days
Totally.
together. Like a typical day, they're kind of just doing the usual thing and it's
Mhm.
funny to watch them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
cool.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Yeah.
But then like to plan with a manifestor, yeah, like that's really where it's like, okay,
Hmm.
even just going out to eat, like the basic question that every couple jokes about, but like there's actually validity in why sometimes like women don't know where the fuck they want to eat. Like it's not women, it's the energy type. It's the way the question is being asked.
Yes.
Nick, I want, Jess, you need yes, no questions. Like, do you
Hmm.
want to go to TGI Fridays?
No.
No, probably, right? I already know your answer. Do you want to go to the five-star steakhouse
Oh, yes, please.
near your place?
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Yes, no questions. A manifestor, my cousins, Heather,
Yeah.
Tiff, and Jessica, we have
Yes.
to give them 4 options to then
Mm.
feel about for like
Mm.
5 days. And then eventually they'll be like, okay, I picked this one. Because
Right.
they're manifesting generators and they have
Yeah.
that emotional authority and they need the options.
Yeah.
I need someone to ask me how I feel about food,
Yes.
how
Yes.
I feel about my day, and where I would be happiest. These
Hmm.
open-ended questions.
Hmm.
For a manifestor, though, I just tell Nick, we're going to the steakhouse. And he's like, cool, I'll be
That
there. What
literally
time?
is the best scenario.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
hard
Like
for me.
it's
I
not
want
for
his
me.
input.
It's like, I want Nick to ask me, what are your feelings about dinner tonight? I
Yes.
want to share all my feelings and all the feelings are irrelevant to Nick, but so that I can come to a conclusion and say like, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we function.
That's great. That is a
Mhm.
great showcasing how both energies can just like all the energies were all meant to interact and
And
be
work
with one
together.
another. Yes. I think that's a lovely example. But I, uh, when there are times where I can be like, okay, I want to go here, or like, hey, we haven't tried this. Let's try that. It'll either be like, okay, yeah, cool, let's do it. Or like, oh, yeah, but what about this spot? And I'm like, great, now you're informing. Cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
But man, when I start with the like, I don't know, like, what do you want? What are you feeling? Oh, those conversations just don't flow.
Yeah. Like, what are you in the mood to eat?
Yeah.
And
No.
he like looks at me like I have 7 heads. He's like,
Right.
in the mood to eat? What? Like,
Yeah.
just
I'm
take me
hungry.
somewhere and I'll pick.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm starving.
Yes. Yes.
Oh
Oh
my God.
gosh. That's
And
so
that's like,
funny.
I mean, that is that informing piece and kind of
Yeah.
planning with a manifestor. That goes, like you had said, from a small scale to picking dinner and where you're going to, life plans.
Yes.
Like a lot of times when Nick and I are, planning our next move, whether that's like literally moving or just like where we want to go in career and
Yeah.
business together as a family, I love to be in that, like what I call like the dream space. Like I love to open
Mhm.
the question and just like dream up, okay, we could take our life here. We could go here. Like I love being in that because as a projector, it allows me the space to just share myself and my wisdom and kind of express.
Yeah.
He panics.
Right. Sure. Sure.
He
Sure.
also has a closed head in ajna,
Ooh,
though.
yes.
So he's not dreamy and inspired as much as
Yeah.
I am.
Yep.
But he very much is like, but like, okay, so what are we doing next? Like he wants informed of the next move or
Yeah.
like he wants the dream to be like packaged and say, okay, here it is.
Sure. Sure.
He wants the information
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
on a big
Yeah.
scale too.
Yes. And like with both of them having that emotional authority, I find it interesting the times where, well, like this is a very simple example that recently just happened. We just got a Costco membership. I feel like that's a new level of adulting for us. We're very excited about it. And so when we went there, we're like, oh my
Congrats.
gosh, they have TVs. Ooh, we want a new TV. Like, let's check it out. So we're looking and like the guy comes over and helps us. Super nice dude, just talking about TVs. And so David's like, should we buy a TV? And I was like, not right now. Because he's got this emotional authority. And I'm like, I know nothing of
Mm-hmm.
TVs. I don't care. Like, I don't need to research this. This is your decision. We're not walking away with a TV right now. And so we're kind of talking through them. I was like, okay, well, how about we go home? We look online to see, like, is this actually a good deal? Because I don't know. I don't know anything about this. We do. It's $20 cheaper at Target. Just FYI, people. Costco may not have the best deal, but it's one of those things.
Costco's not going to sponsor us now.
Dang, Costco. Oh my gosh. But it's not having an emotional authority, hearing him inform, like, let's get this TV. I want to just go, let's do it. Yeah. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this is a pretty good. good decision here. Like there's some money being put it down on this. I'm like, let's give it a night or two. Like it's still on
Yeah.
special for another week. So it's kind of a funny, I don't know like how that works for you, but those are moments where I'm like, especially having that sacral authority for myself, that I'm like, yeah, yeah, well,
Mhm.
okay, sure. I'm like, but I know if we give it a little bit, then he's gonna feel like so
Possibly
solid.
differently
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
differently. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah. So what comes up for me is like when Nick likes to buy new cars. Like, I mean, I feel like I've
Right.
said this, but he
Yes,
likes buying
yes.
new cars. He works at a dealership.
Yep.
And at the beginning of not our relationship, but when he had started working there, he's been there for eight
Oh,
years
wow,
now, I think. Yeah.
really? Okay.
Yeah. He would buy new cars and it was like he just did it on the spot, right? Like, so I feel like
Wow.
there was a sense of him like honoring that urge. Like he got an
Yes.
urge to do it. He would text me, be like, I'm getting this car. Cool, you know? But then once I started getting into human design, I was like, how about you just wait like a week?
Yeah.
And at first he's like, the car's not going to be there in a week. And I
Sure,
was like,
sure, sure.
but just give it a freaking try. Like humor me,
Just
babe.
see.
Yes. And now when he waits it out, it's funny. Like he was like, at one point he was like, he's not a truck guy. I don't know.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
I don't know. It's just not a truck. He's never had a truck. But at one point he was like, oh my God, I really want a truck. I really want a truck. And I was like, just give it a week. And then like
Yeah.
a week later, he's like, gross. Like, I don't ever want a truck.
Yeah. Right.
And so, yeah, like that's one of the like not smaller because it is a big purchase, but
Sure.
something where he's really, informing me that he wants this car. And I know it's an urge, but then he has to take it a layer deeper and really honor his authority.
Yes. Yeah. It is. It's just an interesting, like when those moments come, it's an interesting observation and being like, well, I'll hold this space and like encourage the time,
Mm.
the waiting. And once we were out of Costco, it was like, okay, yeah, well, let's take a look at a few things and see what else is out there. Um, but it's just like, well, that's not how I operate. Like I would have been like, yeah, let's just go. But like, yeah, let's buy it right now. Cool, let's
Yeah.
do it. Great. So it's
Yeah.
just kind of
Which
funny
is
being in
my
that partner.
spleen too. Like my spleen's
Yes,
in the moment, my splenic authority, but it's not as like, Like it's
sure.
sometimes I just don't hear anything. So if I don't hear anything, it's a no, which is where
Yep.
I'm at my parents right now. We had a lot of other ideas too. Nick had other ideas, and I was
That
just like,
spleen will get activated in your
yeah,
current environment.
the spleen will tell me what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
go ahead.
I was just
We're
gonna.
just rolling. We're rolling. We
We
want to
are.
go into the next topic.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, health and wellness of a manifestor looks very different than other energy types.
Yeah.
You had already said that they are non-sacral, so they
Yep.
don't have that active, consistent life force energy within them that you do. And out of us four, not
Hmm.
that us four are ever hanging out, but you're the only one that has that. So I think it's a
Yeah.
very different experience. Like this idea of a manifestor really needs that downtime.
Yes.
And I will say even further alone time. And
Yes.
for me, I'm the same way. So
Yeah.
there is this like flow in our household, our old household. This is a great conversation for my current life. Like we enjoyed downtime together. Like we would really lean into
Mm.
like being home alone or skipping
Yep.
plans because like
Yep.
energetically we both really needed that.
Yes.
I got it a lot. I get it a lot during the day though, working from
Sure.
home. So I can
Yep.
sense like when he almost needs it more than I do at this like season
Right.
in this season of life.
Right. Yeah, it's like a priority in the relationship, right? Because like the
Mm-hmm.
time he gets alone, like that opportunity for alone time is so much less. And that's, I mean, that's the same for our dynamic. You and I, we both work from home and they go
Mm-hmm.
physically into an office during the week. And yeah, that is something. It's funny though, too, being this is probably like being a generator. Um, on the weekends, I just kind of feel lazy with him. I'm like, oh, we just want to sit and watch golf. Like, but I
It is a
love it. Like
generator
when he,
thing.
yeah, like when he's there, I'm like, this, I can veg out so easy. Like it's like such an easy, like, oh, this is cozy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, we did nothing this weekend. Like, oh, okay. But he loves it. He's like, oh my gosh, this was like the best. Like, I feel so much better. He'll for sure take a nap every day. Like, he gets so excited when I nap with him on the weekend, which is
God.
rare.
You know what's funny is Nick, the like when I first started dating him, he was like, I don't nap. I don't nap.
Oh,
He
yeah,
had this very like
yeah,
strong stance around I don't nap. And I was
sure.
like, okay, like cool, tough guy, like nobody cares. Um, but he does. Like, it's not
Yeah.
like a intentional nap, but he will fall asleep on the couch every once in a
Oh,
while. And
yeah.
I'm like, that's take a picture. That was a nap.
Oh, yeah. Oh, David thrives with
Yeah,
napping.
and that's because that's correct for him.
Yes, yes.
And I
And
think it's
yeah,
funny that you said you feel like just as the only generator in this dynamic
yeah,
that we're talking about, like lazy, but also
yeah,
good when you get to
yeah,
relax with him.
yeah.
I think it's interesting and it's changed a lot as Nick has gone up on the roof because he is a
Mm,
6'2". So now he's
yes,
like kind of doubly hermity.
yes.
He's aligned more with my style of life of like
Sure.
when we do too much now, like I feel
Yeah,
like he's recognizing his
totally.
like that shift in his energy of like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. Like, oh, we did multiple events or went to multiple social events in a weekend. I just am observing now that he's like, whoa, that was like I'm tired, or he gets a headache or something. And I'm like,
Sure.
like, I think he's even more so now, having gone on the roof, like noticing how much he needs that downtime.
Oh,
Because
I love
before
that.
he was a line three and he was be bopping all around and like
Yeah.
social butterfly 24/7.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. There definitely are times where I'm surprised at like how much like the output David has. But then I'm like, oh, but he's golfing. He's hanging out with these guys that like he loves hanging out with. Like that what he chooses to spend his time
Yeah.
with, it's like, God, that's good. Like he's very again, like that closed aura. Like he's not gonna say yes to something that he's like to him, it's like, why would I do that? Like why would I bother? I have no interest. Where I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I feel like they're nice. Like I don't like maybe he's like, yeah, no, like that no, he's like, you can go, but like, I don't want to go. I'm
I
like,
feel more like David a little bit. I'm not gonna
sure,
lie.
sure. Yeah, like he's just, so there's some weeks where I'm like, wow, you like golfed on the weekend and did it. I'm like, and you're starting back into work. And he's like, he's fine as long as he's sleeping,
Mhm.
right? And he gets that
Mhm.
downtime one way or another. Um, but yeah, it's just, it's, it's interesting. Like because we get that downtime during the day or like that alone time. I shouldn't say downtime, but that alone time.
Yeah.
Um, that knowing like that's just got to be a priority. It like that's
Mhm.
just that's how it needs to happen.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
mentioned sleep.
yeah,
So, like sleeping experience with him, like as a projector, I've been told by the human design community
yeah,
and experimented with this myself, like
yeah.
sleeping alone actually feels a lot better because I get to
Mm-hmm.
empty out my aura. Like I
Mm-hmm.
get to empty out what I've experienced in the day.
Yeah,
And while I don't like sleep alone like it's not really ever my intention. Like I go to
sure.
bed with him. There's a lot of times where like I personally get up at like 3 a.m. because I'm like tossing and turning and I go sleep in a separate room
Mm,
because I just need the space.
sure.
And I think personally that's because he has an emotional authority. He has that emotional wave. So if I felt his wave during the day and then I go lay down with it, I'm like, ugh, like I just
Sure.
need space.
Sure.
But Nick sleeps like a freaking rock and through
David does too.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah, which I was curious about because you being a generator and having that life force, does he
Sure.
feel that or
I think
no?
so. I think that closed door is like, and sleep. But I also
True.
think a part of that in the years I've known him, his work output is way higher than I think
Mine.
is supportive for
Said
him.
mine.
Yeah. So
So he's
like
tired.
he's yes, like he's on his feet, like physically,
Yeah.
mentally, like
That's the same with Nick.
yeah, he's spent. He's got to
Yeah.
sleep. Like we like last night we were watching a show and he's like, "Can we pause it?" I was like, "Oh, already?" Yeah, yeah, we can. He's like, "Yeah, it's bedtime." Okay. And he's like, "You can keep watching." I was like, "No, no, like let's get ready for bed." And then he's like
I love it.
asleep. Like it's
Oh my gosh, it's
yeah.
like I won't even be done like I don't know. I'll be like saying good night and he's like Like, the how? How do you
Yeah.
fall asleep so fast?
Yeah.
But I'm just
Yeah.
a little sensitive projector, so.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, if I haven't used up my energy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, well, like I read a lot when like he's already asleep and I just have like my little reading light and I'll just read. Um, and I just like I love those moments too. Or like he'll just go to bed and I'll, do whatever.
Yeah.
Um, those times too.
Mm.
I
Okay,
know.
so we talked about like living with a manifestor and kind of the experience, but like, what do you love about your manifestor? Why, like,
Mhm.
they have their quirks and the way that they navigate, and it's so
Yep.
unique compared to the rest of the world. And like, why is
Yes.
that so special?
Yes. I love being in partnership with David for this informing Pete. Like the hit, it's it's so clear. It's
Mm-hmm.
so like, yeah, you know yourself. Like I love that. And he's also like such a great mirror for me to step into that more for myself. And he's like so supportive of that. Like it's like he's holding that space for me to show up
Mm-hmm.
in that way.
Yeah. It's like they have the ability, they are so content within themselves. So they have this unique ability to support the other because there aren't
Yes.
questions like within themselves the way
Yeah.
that maybe we experience that.
And he's not like taking it on. He's not trying to fix me,
My God,
right?
yes.
Like it's just his being. Then I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
ah. And then when I'm like, I have a question or I want some guidance, like it's so potent. It's so fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also that protection piece that you brought up earlier too, like there's no one
Mm-hmm.
else I'd rather be next to. Like
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
the best. It's the
yeah.
best.
And I feel like when you were talking about that, the word that came up for me was like trust. Like there's this
Mhm. Mhm.
like just such a grounded feeling of like trust with like what advice he's giving me or
Yes.
what he's mirroring to me, like you said, like I don't know, there's just this frequency of like
Yeah.
I fully trust you and what's coming through you
Yes.
through like to me.
Mhm.
And then also, yeah, I think where was I? Oh, what was the feeling? Okay. So, two things.
Yes.
When Nick and I we dated for like 8 months and then we had broke up for like 6
Sure.
months in
Yep.
our relationship when we were younger.
Yeah.
And when we had gotten back together, I went on a couple dates in
Oh,
between there and
sure.
stuff, and it was
Yes.
like, a lot of like energy stimulation, like a lot of like
Mm.
fascination and like, ooh, new people. And I know I think that's the experience of dating because I
Yeah.
didn't date a lot.
Ah, yes. Yes,
But
yes.
then when I thought of Nick and like we were kind of getting back together, I felt this like huge sense of peace.
Oh,
And it was like a whole body like and I think that has to do with his energy type and the way that like they like encompass you.
yeah.
And when I was working with an old coach, human design coach Emma,
Yeah.
she had asked something like, well, how do you know when something's right? And I was like, oh my God, as soon like I remembered how I feel in Nick's energy and it's like peace. And I
Mm.
just feel like that's trust and peace is like the energy of my manifester.
Which
And
is their
that's so
signature.
powerful. Oh yeah. Didn't even connect
I
that.
just love that. I was
Like,
like, this is so authentic for you to share. And it's like,
oh my God.
that's
Duh.
that's
Why
his
didn't I think of
signature.
that?
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Where on the flip side, the not self is going to be anger.
hmm
And that's also something like, you can see real quick day to day, but oh, that piece. Yeah. I mean, that's such a beautiful way to
Oh,
put it.
so cute.
It is. That's a
I
full circle
love
human
you.
design
I know
moment.
Nick's listening. I just want to say I love you.
Oh, yes. Love all of our
Oh,
manifestors.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And
Well,
it's something with manifestors that, especially if you have like a kiddo, if you're somebody listening and you're like, well, like I live with a manifestor, they're not my partner, they're, my kid. I just strongly encourage you to allow them to inform and really
mhm,
start to experiment with that, or you informing them, and having that dialogue, um, because like that is the one thing as I'm thinking about like partnership with David, man, things do flow so much better when it's like, okay, I'm clear. and I can inform him and then he can inform me. And then like we're in our flow versus my
Yeah.
like, I don't know, here's spewing things and I'm putting all
Mhm.
this, like I'm projecting now onto you. Like, ooh,
Yeah, like
that's not
informing
good.
is like the key to getting in flow with your manifestor
Yeah.
both ways.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say too, just like, and again, they're not our kids. So this is
No,
like,
no, no.
and we were with them prior to human design wisdom coming into like our relationship. So I think this is something that I'm still adapting and not adapting to, but like just really trying to embrace while he and any manifestor at their age is like learning to embrace, but like letting them be a trailblazer and like
Yes.
letting them just like do the things. Like
Yes.
once they've informed you, also like kind of letting go of like, there's no grip you need to hold on a manifestor.
Mm-mm,
Like you don't
mm-mm.
need to guide, like, which goddamn
Right.
is a projector. Like I don't need to guide him. But I think that's beautiful. That creates so much space for me to like
Yes.
not have to be on like on job or like
Yeah.
working in our relationship. Like I get to
Yes.
also just be totally free because he
Hmm.
doesn't need me in that way.
Yes. Because
That's cool.
manifestors do not need people. Like
No.
they don't.
That's something too in our relationship. We've always said like I really love you, but like I don't need you.
Sure. Which
Like
is
I
so
don't.
great. Like that
Mhm.
is, oh, that's like authenticity right there.
Mhm. Non-attachment. That's
Yep,
real love.
it is. It absolutely is. So yeah,
Mm.
just love our
Just an
manifestors.
episode loving on our manifestors. And we hope if you're a manifester, you feel loved on, or
Yes.
if you're not, invited to go love on your manifestor and hopefully get in a groove like living with them or being in partnership with them
Yep.
or working with them.
Yes.
I'm excited to hear if you guys have any feedback or any stories about your manifestors. And I'm also excited to have David and Nick on this freaking podcast at some point so that they can share
Yes.
their perspective because we
Oh,
just
would love
totally
it.
like just like describe them without even asking. We just
Nope.
informed everybody.
Yeah, right. I'll inform. So I talked about you today.
Yep. I'm curious if they'll agree with everything we said.
Yes, which that would be great. We'll definitely get them on because that would be a fantastic conversation. Probably a short one.
Yeah. Sure. Everybody pick your 3 questions you want to ask them, and that's it.
That's all the time we got.
Oh, I love it. Well, I
I do
think this
too.
is a good place to wrap up
Yeah.
and wish everyone a good day. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Spotify and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love to
Mm.
share this wisdom with more people in the world. And the way that we get to share it is, increasing those podcast numbers.
Absolutely. So appreciate that.
All right, guys. We'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.